It has been said that we rehabilitate people with broken legs. Why don't we do the same for broken minds? Today we take you to a special place called Rose Hill, where those who suffer from mental illness find solace, where they can be given a chance to reach their full potential. It says in the Catechism that each of us should help our fellow man, yet it isn't easy to do that in today's world. Can the Catechism be contemporary? And how do we use it in today's world? We'll show you, up next in Living Your Faith. That part of the Catechism that teaches us it is our job to respect and promote the fundamental rights of the person. What does that mean? Well, joining us now to discuss, Monsignor Kevin Irwin, Dean of the School of Theology and Religious Studies at the Catholic University of America. Sister Marianne Clarahan, Assistant Professor, and Professor Joseph Capizzi. Dan Kelly says that we rehabilitate people with broken legs. Why don't we do the same for broken minds? Is it in us to fear helping those whose vulnerabilities we're frightened of? Monsignor?
I think that's exactly the case, that when we see someone who is obviously vulnerable or with obvious weakness, obvious illness, that triggers in us the fact that we all have special needs. We all have things that need to be attended to, and some are more obvious than others, and sometimes that very face-to-face encounter with someone more obviously needy does resonate with us with fear, anxiety, and then therefore we sometimes get paralyzed. The very opposite.
I think as both Sister and Monsignor have pointed out, it's hard so much because of what it's drawing out of us, the interconnectedness of ourselves with the vulnerabilities of others, that we see in their vulnerabilities our own vulnerabilities. But this is a reminder, in fact, that it should be a reminder, in fact, that while this is our nature now, it's not the nature as it was created, and it's not our nature as we're called to be. We're called to be more than that. So as Monsignor pointed out, instead of retreating from these situations, we should be drawing ourselves into them to become more than what we are currently.
What we see at Rose Hill really talks about that element of the Catechism and the Compendium that's about the common good and to help people reach their potential, their proper fulfillment. What is the common good? What does that mean?
It's a major characteristic that comes out of the Scripture, that God invites a people into a relationship, not individuals. So it's always the chosen people, and we in the Catholic faith are part of that heritage of covenanted people. Again and again, God invites a people to a deeper and abiding relationship. And once we are part of each other, then we understand that the fabric is made up of all kinds of threads, all kinds of people, and that's what we belong to as being Catholic, but it also then helps us look at the wider community, which we look at as also in God's image and likeness, especially the most vulnerable. But the common good is putting the larger group first, and that's not easy to negotiate, especially with the legitimate history in our country of individual freedoms. And no one wants to mitigate any individual freedom. We need to negotiate them in relation to common good. So there's a negotiation, whether you read People magazine or Self magazine. There are two things going on here. They've got to negotiate the self and the people to put that together. That's common good. That's working for the body politic. That's working for the wider public.
And Joe, Professor, when you talk about the common good, because I know this is something that you teach a lot about, how do you get people to understand that they have to kind of leave their separateness for the moment?
Right. It's a great question. It's a difficult question. I think one thing that we have to remind ourselves first is, as Monsignor was saying, is that the common good is a kind of normative thing. It's the concrete conditions of society that conduce to our flourishing as individuals. So on the one hand, it's something that we're a part of, as Monsignor was saying. On the other hand, it's something that is, because it's a part of us, it's also good for us. So the negotiation that goes on and sort of the showing people of their sort of role in it is to convince them and to show them that they flourish when the community flourishes, and that we fail to flourish, that we diminish when the community is diminishing. That in fact, the common good is not something in opposition to my good, but I am a part of that. I can contribute to the common good, and when I do that, I become more. I become, a flourishing part of that community.